We make no comparisons. We see only the Christ or God quality in all, at all times, and in that way we are out of your vision. We see perfection, or have perfect vision, while you see imperfection or have imperfect vision. Until you are in contact with someone who is able to instruct you, until you can raise your consciousness where you can see and converse with us as you are now doing, our teaching seems only inspirational in nature. It is not inspirational when we are conversing or attempting to converse with one. This is only in the nature of instruction, leading to the point where the true inspiration can be received. It is inspiration only when it comes direct from God, and you let God express through you, then you are with us. The ideal image of the flower in minutest detail is within the seed, and must expand, multiply, unfold, and be wrought into the perfect flower by hourly preparation. When this inner image is complete in minutest detail, the flower comes forth beautiful. Just so God holds the ideal image of every child in mind, the perfect image through which he wishes to express. We can get more out of this ideal way of expression than the flower does if we will but let God express through us in the ideal way he has conceived for us. It is only when we take things into our own hands that the problems and difficulties begin. This is not for one or a few, this is for all. It has been shown us that we are not different from you. It is a difference in understanding, that is all. All the different isms, cults, and creeds, all the different angles of all beliefs, are all good, for they will eventually lead their followers to the realization that underneath all there is a deep factor of actuality that has been missed, a deep something that has not been contacted, or they have failed to contact that which rightly belongs to them, which they can and should rightfully possess. We see it is this very thing that will eventually drive man to possess all. The very fact that man knows there is something to possess, which can be possessed, and which he has not, will goad him on until he has it. It is in this way every step in advance is made in all things. The ideal is first pressed out from God's into man's consciousness, and he sees there is something ahead if he will but go on. Here man usually blunders and fails to recognize the source from which the ideal came, but thinks that it came wholly from within himself. He gets away from God, and instead of letting God express through him the perfection God sees for him, he goes on and expresses in his own way, and brings forth imperfectly the thing which should be perfectly wrought or manifest. If he should but realize that every ideal is a direct, perfect expression from God, and as soon as this ideal comes to him, he would immediately make it his ideal to be expressed from God, then take his mortal hands off and let God express through him the perfect way, this ideal would come forth perfect. Here we must realize that God is above the mortal, and the mortal cannot help in any way. In this way, man would learn in a short time to express perfection. The one great thing man must learn is to get forever through and out of the psychic of mind forces, and express directly from God. For all psychic forces are created wholly by man, and they are likely to mislead. Next chapter. Here the talk ended with the understanding that all should meet at breakfast. We were up early next morning and ready for breakfast at 6:30. As we left our lodging, we met our friends conversing the same as ordinary mortals. They greeted us, and we voiced our surprise at meeting them in this way. The reply was, "We are only men the same as you. Why do you persist in looking upon us as different? We are in no way different from you. We have only developed our God-given powers to a greater extent than you. We then asked, "Why can we not do the works that we have seen you do?" They answered, "Why do not all we contact follow on and do the works? We cannot and do not wish to force our way upon anyone. All are free to live and go the way as they wish to go. We try only to show the easy and simple way, the way we have tried and found very satisfactory." We went to breakfast, and the conversation drifted into the ordinary, everyday occurrences. I became lost in wonder. Here were 4 men sitting opposite us at table. There was one that had lived upon this earth about 1,000 years. He had so perfected his body that he was able to take it with him wherever he desired. His body still retained the buoyancy and youth of a man of 35, and this perfection had been completed about 2,000 years. Next to him sat a man that was the 5th in line of regular descendant of the family first mentioned. The second had lived upon this earth for more than 700 years, and his body did not appear to be a day over 40. They were able to converse with us the same as any other men could converse. There was Emal, who had lived for over 500 years and appeared to be about 40, and Jast, who was 40 and appeared to be about that age. All were conversing together like brothers, with not a hint of superiority, all kindly, simple, and yet well-grounded and logical in every word uttered, with no trace of the mystical or mysterious about them, just plain human beings in daily intercourse with each other. Still, I could scarcely realize that it was not all a dream. After breakfast, when we arose from the table, one of my associates started to pay for the meal. Emal said, "You are our guest here," and held out to the lady in attendance what we thought was an empty hand. But when we looked a second time, there was just the amount of money necessary to pay the bill. We found that our friends did not carry money with them, neither did they depend on others for their supply. When money was needed, it was right at hand, created from the universal. We walked out of the house, and the man that was with the number 5 party shook hands with us, saying that he must return to his party, and disappeared. We made a note of the time of his disappearance, and afterwards found that he appeared with his party within 10 minutes after he had left us. We spent the day with Emal, Jast, and our friends of the records, as we called him, in wandering over the village and the countryside, our friend recounting in detail many instances which happened in the time of John's sojourn of 12 years in the village. In fact, so vividly were these instances brought to our minds that it seemed as if we were back in the dim past, walking and talking with this great soul, who to us before this had seemed but a mythical character, conjured from the minds of those who wished to mystify. From that day on, John the Baptist has been a real living character, so real to me it seems as if I can now actually see him walking the streets of the village and countryside, and receiving the instruction of those great souls about him, the same as we walked the streets of the village and countryside that day, yet not able to grasp the fundamental truth of it all. After tramping all day, listening to the most interesting historical occurrences, and hearing records read and translated on the very spot where the incidents took place thousands of years before, we returned to the village just before dark, thoroughly tired. The 3 friends who were with us and had walked every step of the way as we had walked were not showing the least sign of fatigue or weariness, whereas we were begrimed, dust-laden, and perspiring.